Well, I'll have to leave uh, early probably, like I do for the I would I would do earlier, but
Mhm.
we're good now.
Anyway, nice to have everybody here. We're excited here in Budapest because Naranjan Mars is arriving tomorrow. So,
Oh, speaking of Super Sid, yesterday was a very special day.
uh-huh.
Siddhari Prabhu's appearance day.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear anything about that. And you were 16 years old yesterday, Prabhuji.
For 12 years and 5 months and 20 days.
Hare Krishna. Okay, well, I think we can go ahead and start. Let me bring something up on the screen here. Goragraganya gana go to Goloduharam Goranga Guru Tamagopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavadam Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Prana Re Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Mudgavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishe Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So reading from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's prayers to Narottam Das Thakur. Shri Krishna Namamrita Bharshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev, the nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. So we're continuing with our discussion. We're still in the fifth song, which is called Raganuga Bhakti Riti, a glimpse into what is Raganuga Bhakti. In our last few sessions, we've been speaking something about the gopis and the manjaris, which is what Narottam Das Thakur was speaking about, and how Srila Prabhupada commented to the Back to Godhead editors that we cannot avoid them. They are worshipable deities. So we should understand something about them And more importantly, today I'd like to speak a little something. What relevance do they have to us as followers of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Thakur Bhaktivinode? So in our last session, we'll go ahead and bring the verse up. Narottam, in his ecstasy, he spoke about the Sakhis and the Manjaris, and then he just became so overwhelmed. He says, Esa barunugohana prema seba nibachana ingite bujiba sabikaj rupa guna dogamagi sada haba anuragi basati kori basaki maji. That I'm going to beg from these Sakhis to be able to serve the Lord and be able to understand the various services just by their gestures, just by a simple glance of one of the gopis or something. And so in this verse, now he continues with that theme of service and the subtlety in service and the subtlety in the relationship between the gopis and their sevaks, the manjaris, and how just by a glance they can give so much information. And the manjaris, they know exactly what the proper time to do proper service is. So this is today's verse. It's the 7th verse in this 5th song. Vrindavani dui jana chari dike saki gana samayera seva rasa suke sakira ingita habe chamara dulaba tabe Tambula Yogava Chandamuke. By the indication of the Sakhis, I will offer chamar and betel nuts in the lotus mouths of Radha and Krishna. The Sakhis with Radha and Krishna in their midst are totally aware of the different services to be rendered at appropriate times. Samoya Seva Rasa. So in the previous verse, Narottam spoke about how just by a small indication, the gopis will give us some instruction. In a similar way, we want to become so close with our Gurudev that just by a glance, we can understand, oh, what I'm saying right now is not pleasing to Gurudev. Or Gurudev is pleased, or Gurudev wants something more. We want to come so close to our Guru Janas in that way. And this is real seva. When we begin some service, we begin with the sankalpa. And Narottam Das Thakur, this is you could say in one sense, a beginning part of his Prema-bhakti-candrika, because now he's gotten to the point he really wants to get to. He's speaking about Raganuga Bhakti, and he's speaking about the gopis and the manjaris, but he's doing it in a particular way, in a foundational way. When traditionally in Vedic culture, we begin an important activity, whether it's a marriage of the child or a garbhadang samskara, where a grihastha couple is doing some ceremonies to beget a good child, or any of the different types of samskars, or someone begins a yatra, tirtha yatra, we begin with a sankalpa. The sankalpa in Sanskrit in general means a determination. It's also some ceremonial ritual that's done. We evoke the day and the time and everything because it's a determination at the beginning. This is what we're doing right now. Sankalpa comes from the Sanskrit word samyak, which means completely. Sankalpa is defined samyak kalpa iti sankalpa. It's a Sanskrit word that means a vow or a resolution. It indicates a strong or a sincere desire to get something, to accomplish something, even at the cost of your life. And sankalpa is mentioned in the Gita, it's mentioned in different Puranas and places. It's a very powerful tool for spiritual advancement. I begin my japa every day with some sankalpa, with some simple prayers. Sankalpa in the sense that it just is a focus. Okay, now I'm going to do this thing. And I'm going to put aside Facebook. I'm going to put aside this thing and that thing and discussing with any people or looking at what kind of comments that the devotees are making in WhatsApp, and I just want to chant japa for this time. That's sankalpa. And so this is what Narottam Das Thakur is giving us here. We understand from Vedanta philosophy, there's two types of vrittis. Vritti means a function. There's a vritti of the Sarup Shakti and there's a vritti of Maya Shakti. And as much as we contemplate the Sarup Shakti and Krishna Leela and the associates of Krishna, then we'll become drawn to the spiritual abode. And when we seek shelter, the Mayak vritti, or the Maya Shakti, then we're going to become controlled by Maya. We'll become victims of lust and anger and greed, and we'll die. So understanding these two things, we want to work on advancing ourselves and our bhakti to Bhagavan. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur is teaching us here. He's giving us a sankalpa. I want to be completely fixed in the service of Radha and Krishna through their most intimate associates, the Sakhi Manjaris. And in particular, I want to do seva. Bhakti means seva. There's a beautiful verse in the Garuda Purana, which is often quoted by our acharyas, which I can show you. Bhaj ityesha vaidatuhu sevayam parikirtitaha tasmat seva budai prokta bhakti sadhana bhuyasi. That the dhatu, the bij dhatu, for the word bhajan, it's bhaj. Bhaj means service. Means sevayam. And therefore, when we do our sadhana bhuyasi, with the consciousness that I am a sevak, I am a servant, that's bhakti. So Prabhupada many times, sometimes scholars, they criticize Srila Prabhupada for translating bhakti as service or devotional service. I used to spend a lot of time in Malaysia and in Bali, and a lot of time, but I spent a few years there. And the word bhakti is part of their language. You can see a lot of Sanskrit roots in different Asian languages. And the word bhakti there, you'll see it in some movie poster or something. Bhakti, it means love in the Malayan language. So for a lot of people, that's a common definition. Bhakti means love. But Srila Prabhupada gave us this translation of devotional service, which is based upon our tradition, our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, as found in this verse in Garuda Purana, that bhajan or bhakti means seva, means service. So I'd like to explore a little bit today more about what Bhaktivinode Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati say about the service to the manjaris. As we've been very sensitive about this topic in every session, and for good reason. I have friends who left their guru, who left Srila Prabhupada and left the service of Srila Prabhupada in the name of becoming advanced in some manjari seva. That's a very, very sad thing to reject their guru like that. So we want to be very careful. We want to follow with the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. We want to understand this thing. It's a fact that it's a sensitive subject, but it's also a fact that it's a very misunderstood subject. Because it's a sensitive subject, many devotees don't want anything to do with it. And they're just more comfortable. We just don't talk about that, Prabhu. But if we don't talk about that, how can we progress? Srila Prabhupada said this thing to the editors of Back to Godhead magazine. How can we avoid them? How can we avoid the gopis? In the same way, we quoted some things from Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Instruction and also teachings of Lord Chaitanya, where Prabhupada speaks about the manjaris. He speaks about this, and we should understand this. We should understand what is our goal as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Now, in Bhaktivedanta Thakur has given us two books about Nam Bhajan. Perhaps the most famous is Harinam Chintamani. But he also wrote a postgraduate study book for Harinam Chintamani, and that's Bhajan Rahasya. And in the Bhajan Rahasya, Bhaktivinode Thakur, he explains the Mahamantra. He divides it into eight different divisions of 2 names each, and says that this corresponds with each verse of the Shikshashtakam prayers, and it corresponds with the different levels of bhakti, beginning with the Dov Shraddha, with faith, going all the way up to prema, and it also corresponds with the 8 different pastimes of the day. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about the first 4 words of the Mahamantra, here's what he has to say. This is an English translation from the Bengali. When a sadhak on the platform of bhava, there's a jata rati sadhak, we spoke about that before. Some rati is risen in their heart. Chants the first and second pairs of names, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He remembers the pastimes in which Radha and Krishna meet. Under the guidance of Rupa Manjari and other Braja Devis, he performs Manasi Seva to Sri Radha Govinda in his internally contemplated form of a gopi. So this is not what we talk to people about when we give them a book on the street. It's not what we speak to people about at the Sunday Feast program or in the Bhakti program, because people will not understand. But this is an integral part of our philosophy. And that's a little bit of what we'd like to look at today. We want to just go past some of these different statements from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to understand what is our conception, what is our Gaudiya conception. Because just as we gave the analogy last week, Gaura Prabhu suggested this to me, nice analogy, that if you meet someone, you're on a bus or a train, and you meet someone and you start talking with them, naturally you will ask them, well, where are you going? And if the person tells you, I don't know, I'm just on the train, or I'm on the bus, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm on the bus. You think that this person's crazy. You must know where you're going. And therefore, we have a sankalpa in the beginning. We want to understand where it is that we're going to go to. Now, this doesn't mean this is my practical meditation that I'm doing every day, and we do in some kind of imaginary way where we're speculating. But we have to understand what is our goal. So let's look again at Bhajan Rahasya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is in the 5th chapter, in the 17th verses. He gives a prayer. O Srimati Radhika, deprived of service to your lotus feet, I'm drowning in this ocean of material existence, which is difficult to cross. Please shelter me within the boat of your mercy and bestow upon me the qualification to serve your lotus feet. For apart from this service, there is no other remedy to remove the exhaustion caused by pangs of separation from you. Everything in the material world causes misery. Only service to you is fully blissful. The Manjaris are firmly and resolutely fixed in the mood of being Sri Radha's maidservants. The only thing on their minds is service to Sri Radha's lotus feet. A desire to enjoy bodily association with Sri Hari does not arise even in their dreams. If Sri Krishna forcibly catches hold of them and begins to speak to them, they say stiffly, "Oh, Nandanandan, do not dare touch this body." The bhav that Sri Radha's maidservants have towards her is pure and completely free from the desire for self-enjoyment. They do not even have a tinge of any desire other than to serve her. So although in our Gaudiya line, we speak about Chari rasas, 4 different rasas, if you study the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our Gaudiya line, we really stress this Manjari Bhav again and again. I have so many different, let's read this one here too. This is really good. This is from Chaitanya Siksamrita, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this is from the 7th section, 7th wave, 7th section. Devotees aspiring for prema. Speaking, oh devotees aspiring for prema, you have, by practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, attained love of God, and surpassed the 14 levels of material existence. Above the 14 worlds exists a subtle realm of Haridam, the abode of Lord Shiva. Leave the 4 levels of this existence and proceed higher. Pierce through the 2 levels of Vishuddha Sattva, Brahman and Vaikuntha in the form of Viraj, and approach the border of Goloka Vrindavan. In Golok, there are 5 levels of personal experience. Shanta, Dasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurja. Coming to the level of Madhur, take up a spiritual body of a gopi and enter the group of Radha as a follower of Lalita by the mercy of Rupa Manjari. Raise the Sthayi Bhav to rasa by mixing it with Vibhav Anubhav, Satvika Bhavs, and Sanchari Bhavs, being experienced in rasa and attached to the name, and having earned the treasure of prema to the level of Mahabhav, you will have reached perfection. Attain the highest stage by deciding your present qualification, practicing Yukta Vairagya, and constantly chanting the name. I have not supplied many scriptural references in the discussion of Madhura Ras because those who are qualified will find all this in Ujjvala Nilamani and Jaiva Dharma. After understanding the topic of rasa and taking support of the activity, service, and mood suitable to the self, the devotee should enter the meditation on the 8-fold pastimes. Then very easily he'll obtain Vastu Siddhi. By practicing Yukta Vairagya, the devotee can easily remain a Paramahamsa to the end of his material life. So what I mostly want to focus on in this session today is just that this such a thing exists, and this is our sankalpa. This is what we want to go towards. In the next week's verse, which I have to think about next week what's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen next week, we'll hear from Narottam more about how to develop that spiritual body of a gopi and how to think about that. And we'll speak something in that session about what is the conception of our line of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and of Bhaktivinode. So in this particular quote we were just reading from Chaitanya 6-Amrita, Bhaktivinode finishes, people who have strong attraction for gross material pleasure and cannot understand these topics should not read, think of, or discuss these topics of rasa, because they will think that these are all material activities and criticize them. If they do appreciate them at all, they will become degraded as sahajiyas. Now, it's very interesting that this comes after a description of these subjects. So it's very clear that Bhaktivinoda Thakur understood that there's a difference between having a sankalpa or having a conception that we want to go in the direction of and meditating on these things as part of our particular personal sadhana. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also spoke about this. And here's a verse, a statement which he gives in Amrita Vani. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta I found is very significant because he's very famous as being very, very conservative and very, very heavy. I also want to read you a little something about the Swarupa Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati from Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's book a little later in this session. But let's just read this statement now. This is from Amrita Vani. O living entities, give up your false pride, your self-adoration and subordination to your wives. Please serve the Supreme Lord under the direction of Srimati Radharani and Sri Rupa Manjari. Please constantly engage in Krishna service under the guidance of the gopis of Braj. So this is the essence of our line. This is what Narottam Das Thakur is telling us, is repeatedly what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is stating in his songs, in his writings, in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We want to have the service of the gopis of Braj. Let's look at this a little bit more. There's an article Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote called Radha Dashyam, a handmaid of Sri Rupa Manjari. And let's look a little at this again, just to give some confidence. We should read these things. We should understand what our acharyas say. Madhur Rati is the highest form of prema, and an individual soul, even in the stage of Ragatmaka Bhakti, considers herself a maid called a manjari. There's two general divisions of bhakti, ragatmaka and raganuga. Ragatmaka refers to the personal associates of the Lord. So even someone who's a ragatmaka bhakta, they consider themselves a maidservant called a manjari, whose service is guided by the dearest Rupa Manjari and others who in turn are subservient to the 8 Sakhis, Sri Lalita, Vishaka, Chitra, Indulekha, Champakalata, Rangadevi, Tungavidya, Sudevi, who are the counterparts of Sri Radhika. They are all engaged in the aprakrit services of their beloved Sri Krishna for his absolute pleasures and no one else. Their complete satisfaction lies in the absolute pleasure of their beloved. The physical body of this world can never reach the lotus feet of the Lord. Hence, a sadhak in Raganuga Bhakti, who may be a man or a woman in this physical world, develops the aprakrit body of a gopi called a manjari if his or her raga is awakened in the wake of the Braj gopi. Specifically, she is a manjari with a particular name, conception of her form and beauty, particular age, costume, specialized service, and grove where she receives and serves a divine couple, Sri Radha Krishna. The individual in Raganuga Bhakti meditates inwardly, looking upon himself or herself as a handmaid of Sri Rupa Manjari, who is a personification of the Rup, beauty of Sri Radha, which beauty is a projected absolute beauty of the absolute Lord, Sri Krishna. Sri Rupa Manjari guides the individual handmaid in the fold of Sri Lalita Sakhi, who in turn engages the handmaid in the specialized services of Sri Radha Krishna. So we've been hearing some of these things. These are topics which were described repeatedly by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinode Thakur, because this is Gaudiya Vaishnavism. As Srila Prabhupada said, we can't avoid it. At the end of his days, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was having the devotees sing every day the song Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, which is a meditation, a prayer to Rupa Goswami in her original ontological form as Rupa Manjari. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is described by his associates as a Manjari. And let's look a little at this. I'd like to read something from Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's book, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. As Maharaj comments, in his writings, Bhaktivinode had intimated his Siddha Swarup to be Kamala Manjari, a young gopi. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had declared Srila Gaura Das Babaji to be Guna Manjari. In a letter to Kunja Bihari Prabhu in 1921, Srila Saraswati Thakur wrote of his internal feelings and position on the spiritual plane. So this yellow highlight here, this is from the translation from that letter to Kunja Bihari. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, Sri Vishabhanu Nandini addresses her young maidservant as Noinamani Manjari and wants her always by her side. But sometimes she cannot be with her. Bimala Manjari, who is ever connected with Nayanamani Manjari, being deprived of the association of Sri Radha, leaves on the pretense of severing ties with Nayanamani Manjari. Yet it is the very nature of Bimala Manjari to ensure that Nayanamani Manjari perpetually engages in service to Sri Varshabhanavi Devi. And as Maharaj recounts then sometime later, Ananta Vasudev Prabhu, he came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and he told him that he had a dream. Guru Maharaj, he said that I had this dream that you're Nayanamani Manjari in Braj. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta didn't say yes, he didn't say no, he just laughed. And after that, the followers from that point on, they became convinced that the Swarup of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is Nayanamani Manjari. Right? And when Madhav Maharaj established the deities in Jagannath Puri at the birthplace of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, He named the deities as Shri Shri Radha Jew, indicating Nayana Mani Manjari. And Prabhupada also wrote a similar letter. This was on the 5th of February, 1969. Prabhupada said a similar thing. Let's look at this real quick here. He said, my Guru Maharaj claimed to be one of the sub-devotee assistants of the 8 gopis. Sub-devotee assistants means the manjaris. This is what Prabhupada wrote about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So this is our Gaudiya conception. This is what Narottam Das Thakur is teaching us here. This is what Bhaktivinode Thakur teaches. And my Guru Maharaj is very fond of singing this Radhastaka song. Maybe some of you have heard it. Satakoti Gopi Madhava Man Rakiti Nali Lakoti Jatan. And how there's hundreds of millions of gopis, but they have no power. Satakoti Gopi Madhava Man to pacify the mind of Krishna. Bena Gite Daki Radhika Nam, that Krishna's playing his flute, and what's he doing? He's calling out Esha Esha Radha Dako Isham. He's calling out the name of Radha again and again. That's what Krishna does with his flute. And at the end of that song, which is a very beloved song again of my Guru Maharaj, but also other followers of Bhaktivinode Thakur, he finishes with these 2 lines. Ehino Radhika Charana Toli Bhakatibino de Kandiya Bole. That I'm standing before the lotus feet of Shrimati Radharani, Bhaktivinode Kandiya Bole, and I'm crying and crying. And what do I say? Tuyagana Majaya Mare Gani, Kinkore Korea Raku Apani. Please make me your own. Please count me as part of your group and make me your maidservant. This is a prayer of Bhaktivinode Thakur. And it's bona fide. We should do this. So in this verse today, let's look at it again. Narottam Das Thakur is praying, Vrindavane Duijana Chari Dike Shaki Gana, that I want to serve Radha and Krishna in the 2 of them, Duijana, Chari Dike Shaki Gana, through their maidservants of the gopis. Samoyera Seva Rasa Shuke. With great happiness, I'm going to serve them according to the particular time and place. So how is that relevant for us? Now, I'm going to look back on some verses that we spoke about before. But before that, I just want to preface it. We can go ahead and pull this up again. This famous song that we often sing, Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan. This is the next to the last verse. Jaya Jaya Jvala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sar. That this Ujjvala Rasa is Sarva Rasa Sar. I was just hearing a wonderful lecture from Bhaktivedanta Swami today, where he's pointing out that our acharyas have described that the Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters about the Ras Leela, that section is the purpose of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. To present the Ras Leela is the purpose of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the different cantos of the Bhagavatam, so that we can understand it properly. Right? And that's the purpose of the verse, Eti Chamsa Kala Pumsam Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam, to understand how Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. He's the original form of the Lord. So Jaya Jaya Jvala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sar. Out of all the different rasas, this Ras Leela is Rasa Sar. Parakiya Bhave, this mood of Parakiya, Jaha Brajeti Prachar. This is what we want to, it's here it's saying, they've translated this manifests only in the realm of Braj. It's here they added the translation here, but it's propagated in Braj by Sri Krishna in the form of this divine Parakiya Bhav. This is our prachar, this Brajeti prachar. This is what we want to preach. And to do that, we have to take shelter of the gopis. Our function is preaching. We're not like the Gosyanandis who want to stay in one place, or like the Bhajananandis, rather we're Gosyanandis. The Bhajananandis who will stay in one place and imagine something in their mind. That's not practical or possible for the vast majority of devotees. It may be possible for some. We're not against it. But in general, we advocate preaching. And so let's look again, as we've looked in the past, in this Madhya Lila chapter 8, about the role of the gopis in the lives of the devotees. So if we want to understand Radha Krishna Lila, this is ati gudatera. Ati gudatera. It's a very, very confidential thing. And those persons, dasya vatsalyadi bhavi, who have the mood of servitorship or parental love, etc., nahoy gochar. They can't understand, they can't appreciate these intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But it's these intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna for which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. This is the purpose of our Gaudiya Vaishnava line. And Kaviraj Goswami goes on to explain, Sabe eka saki ganar ihan adhikar. Sabe eka, only the gopis have the adhikar, the qualification to understand these pastimes. It's only them who can understand the pastimes, and it's only them who can Vishtar, expand those pastimes. So when we speak about the gopis expanding their pastimes, that means us. It's a very astonishing thing. We're part of that expansion of the gopis' pastimes. The Harinam in the suburbs, in the subways of New York City, and in the suburbs perhaps too, is also an expansion of the gopis' pastimes with Radha and Krishna. Sakibina, without the gopis, a lila pusha noi hoy. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna can't be nourished. Saki lila vishtariya, saki ashvadoy. So the gopis, they do two things, vishtariya and ashvadoy. The gopis can taste it because they have the adhikar. They can taste those pastimes, and vishtariya, they can expand those pastimes. Sakivina elilaya anyara nahi gati. Sakibhavi jaitanrat kori anugati. Radha Krishna kunja seva sajja se pai. Say sajja paite ar nahika upai. So without the gopis, sakibina elilaya anya nahi gati. You can't enter into those pastimes unless you become anugatya, unless you follow the gopis of Vrindavan. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur was singing. Prabhupada translates as, without the help of the gopis, one cannot enter into these pastimes. Well, only one who worships the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis, following in their footsteps, can engage in the service of Radha Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. Only then can one understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. There is no other procedure for understanding. But in the Madhya Lila chapter 8, previously to this, Ramananda Roy describes to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how this is the goal of life, to understand and relish the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Now, going on here, Yadyapi Sakara Krishna Sangami Nahiman. So this is the nature of these gopis. This is the nature of the manjaris. They don't have a desire themselves for Krishna Sangam, to unite with Krishna, to enjoy directly with Krishna. But Srimati Radharani, she makes some endeavor to get Krishna to enjoy with them. Nana Chale Krishna Preri Sangama Korai Atma Krishna Sangi Hoite Koti Sukha Pai. And Srimati Radharani, she sends the gopis sometimes to Krishna just to get them to associate with him directly. And at that time, Srimati Radharani gets a pleasure, a happiness, which is 10 million times greater than if she was personally there with Krishna. And Ramananda Roy goes on explaining. Anyanyonya Vishuddha Prema Kore Rasapushta Tan Sabara Prema Deki Krishna Hoy Tushta. That this love is nourished, Tushta, in this love of God. When Krishna sees how the gopis have developed this love for him, Krishna becomes very satisfied. Prabhupada writes in his purport, Srimati Radharani and the gopis are not interested in their personal happiness derived from association with Krishna. Rather, they become happy by seeing one another associate with Krishna. And this way, their dealings are further nourished by love of Godhead. And seeing this, Krishna is very pleased. So this is our line. This is Brajeti Prachar. We're preaching the love of Braj. But only if someone comes in contact with the gopis can they appreciate this. Now, previously in our earlier session, we told a story about Srinivasacharya and Ramachandra Das from the book Karnananda, and how Srinivasacharya had lost external consciousness, and it seemed as though he were dead. They couldn't even detect any breath on him. His two wives were freaking out, and his different disciples and things. And then just at that time, Ramachandra Kaviraj shows up because he understands perfectly the heart of his guru. And we told something of that story. I'd like to tell a little bit more, some more details about this. So Ramachandra Kaviraj, he went into Samadhi and he realized his Swarup as Karuna Manjari. And he saw his Gurudev, Srinivasacharya, as Mani Manjari. And then when he arrived there, he saw why Gurudev was in Samadhi and why he wasn't returning back to external consciousness, that his Gurudev was searching for Radharani's Besara, her nose ring. And there were so many gopis searching for that. Well, Rupa Manjari was dressing Srimati Radharani in the bank of the Jamuna after Radha and Krishna performed some Jalakrita Leela, some pastimes in the water. And so Ramachandra Kaviraj shows up just at that time when they're searching for that Besara, that nose ornament. And he realizes his form is Karuna Manjari. And as Karuna Manjari, he finds that nose ring and he hands it to his guru, Ramachandra Kaviraj, in the form of Karuna Manjari. And Karuna Manjari gives it to her guru, Guna Manjari. Guna Manjari is Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami then handed it to Rupa Manjari just at the exact moment when that nose ring should be offered. So Narottam Das Thakur in the song, he's singing Samoyaya Seva Rasa. That when will I be able to do the service at the perfect time, the perfect place? And this Samoyaya Rasa, Seva Rasa means that to understand the right season. Just for example, the gopis during the winter months, they wear red clothes. And they take things which are warming for the body. During the summer months, they wear white and pearls and things which are cooling. And they serve Srimati Radharani and Krishna in the same way. So this is Samoyaya Seva Rasa. This is service for the particular appropriate time and place. This is Anugatya Mohi Seva, service under the guidance of one of Krishna's eternal associates. And that service is much, much more pleasing both to ourself and to Krishna than to do some independent service. And therefore, again, in the Madhya Lila chapter 8, Ramananda Roy tells Mahaprabhu, Gopi Anugatya Bina Aishwarya Jnana. And he speaks about this Gopi Anugatya, that we want to become Gopi Anugatya, which is what Narottam Das Thakur is speaking about here. We want to become a follower of the gopis. Unless we do this, Bhuji Leha Nahi Pai Brajendananda, that we can't attain the service to the lotus feet of Krishna. And he says that Aishvarya Jnani, being of Aishvarya Jnani, without any Aishvarya Jnani, if we have this knowledge of the Lord's opulence, then we won't be able to attain Krishna's lotus feet. So we want to become Anugatya of those gopis. And it's described in general, there's two different types of service attitudes amongst the Lord's eternal associates. A Swatantriya Mohi Seva. Swatantriya Mohi Seva means, Swatantriya means independent. There's some independent service because each personality has their independent service. It's not that everybody is one and everybody marches in a formation like an army or something in the spiritual world. But the Swatantriya Mohi Seva. They have their independent mood. And the second is Anugatya Mohi Seva. they're at the same time that they're independent, but at the same time they're working under their guidance. So we have that system in this realm through preaching. And through that preaching, through that brajeti prachar, we can please our Guru Janas who we can meditate on, we can have some conception anyway, that their ontological position is as a maidservant of the gopis, a maidservant of Rupa Manjari. And this is our meditation. This is the thing that we want to begin with. This is our foundation that we want to have. Narottam Das Thakur is teaching us this. This is what we need to know in the very beginning so that we can make some sankalpa. We can have some determination. And that the essence of that sankalpa is, if you see in the ceremonies, the sankalpa ceremony, as I mentioned, you begin by stating on this day, and this month, and this year, we're going to do this thing, such and such and such and such person, and you get married for the purpose of Radha Krishna service and coming closer to Radha Krishna, some beautiful marriage prayers. This is a sankalpa that we have. So Narottam Das Thakur is giving us this sankalpa in the form of the 7th verse. Brindabani dui jana chade dike saki gana samoyera seva rasasuke. Sakira ingita habe chamara dulaba tabe tambula yoga vachandamuke. And so with the blessings, by the indication, the Sakhis are going to glance at me. Now is your time. You go and you do this service now. Samoya Seva Rasa. So another meaning of Samoya Seva Rasa is that the appropriate time is the time when I get that glance from Srimati Radharani's maidservant who just glances at me. And I know by that glance, that's the permission, that's the indication that I'm supposed to go and do that service. And what service will I do? I'll offer to them some chamara, I'll offer some tambul, the lotus mount of Radha and Krishna, because it's the Sakhis who understand what services should be done at what time. So this is some discussion I wanted to have on this topic. It concerns me very much because I see, as I mentioned before, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some persons, some good devotees, leaving Prabhupada's mission with the idea, oh, I'm going to get something more. I'm going to go to Radhakund and get this or that. And I'm friends with some of those people. To this day, practically every time I go to Radhakund, I run into a few old friends there who used to be living in a temple with me somewhere, and now they're doing this other thing. That's okay. They're still my friends. I don't want to be their judge. I want to respect them. But I have eyes in my head. And I look and I see, and I see honestly, they still have the same problems I have. Some of them are still having problems with desires for women and this and that. I don't really see how they've done so much better by giving up this service of Srila Prabhupada. Rather, I think they've made a great mistake. But that's their choice. I'm not going to criticize them for it. But I want to stay very firmly fixed in the service of my Guru Maharaj. And my Guru Maharaj told me that we should work to help uphold the prestige of Prabhupada's seva, Prabhupada's society. And we should show that we have everything in this society. So we should know these things exist. We can't avoid them, as Srila Prabhupada said. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If anybody has any reflections or comments, questions, or anything, we can go ahead. Jaigor, do you want to start first? You gotta run quick, and you and Super Sid maybe might have something.
I was going to mention this, and you ended up bringing it up also. I'll just ask: do we accept Gorkishore Das Babaji and Gopal Bhatta Goswami as the same person?
That's an interesting thing. I was also thinking like that. I haven't heard like that, and I wouldn't necessarily think that. Generally, it's not what the followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta say. I've never heard that said by any of them.
Because it's the same name, right?
Yeah, but there may be many different persons who are named Jaigor also in the spiritual world. They're not all expansions of you.
Fair enough. Thank you for speaking this, Prabhu. I was just thinking, um, while you were speaking that this is the most direct I've ever heard you be on this subject matter, and I was really uh, appreciating just being able to hear.
We should speak things which are appropriate. We can say that oh, we only want to hear Gopi Bab, we want to be fixed in that. But Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is very beautiful, and Bhagavad Gita is very, very important. And Bhagavad Gita is very rasik. Everything's found in Bhagavad Gita if we have the eyes to see it. But Krishna spoke in such a way because there were so many mixed people around him. And even if you look in the Bhagavatam, in the 47th chapter, in the Brahma Gita, when Uddhava comes and gives a message there, what Krishna's telling the gopis, he's telling them to do yoga and to meditate on him. And previously to that, during the Ras Leela, when the gopis came to him, Krishna started speaking to them about Varnashram Dharma. You should also all be good wives and go home and to your husbands and things. And our acharyas have commented that there's a reason why Krishna spoke like that. There's different levels of purport. And one of the reasons he spoke that way is because not everybody had the adhikar to understand. And so for persons who are really attached to Varnashram Dharma, they're just going to see that external thing and they say, yes, this is important. Krishna spoke about Varnashram Dharma. And then when Uddhava is speaking the Brahma Gita, they'll say, yes, see, he spoke about yoga. Yoga is so important. But that's just external. I think you understand that principle. Okay, anything else?
From Siddhari Prabhu, maybe. Not from me. Thank you.
Are you guys in the same room there?
Yeah, he commented that I'm in prison, and then he came to join me here.
Well, I'm going to say it looks really like a very rustic place.
Yeah, we're playing the game musical chairs. So here in the Rukun Temple, we're playing the game musical Bhajan Kutirs. You always have to find a hidey hole to get away.
It's quite a big building for that. It's good. You have so many hidey holes. That's cool. That's some lesson. All right. Siddha Hari Prabhu, is Jaigor being good to you?
So he has been very good to me.
Okay, good.
He has been feeding me nice fruits and all kinds of wonderful sweet things here. Thank you. And most importantly, he's feeding me beautiful kirtan and katha. I'm so feeling so enlivened in his association here in New York. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Two couple of points I want to share. First, I really appreciate your class. As like Jaguar, I felt like today I started feeling, I started getting a glimpse of the depth of Krishna consciousness which is available. As you ended towards the end, you were saying how your spiritual master wanted to show how there's everything in this movement, in Prabhupada's movement. And by discussing these subject matters, you're rightly establishing that desire of him. So thank you for doing that in your presentation today. It's very sweet presentation.
It's not
I
visible.
also wanted to appreciate in the beginning you gave this point.
We're just reading. These aren't things that belong to me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. And then I was thinking, another point was that you mentioned in the beginning that you give from Gaura Prabhu says that how we should know the goal, like we are on the train, we should know which station we're going to. And although we're all practicing Krishna consciousness, it's important to know very precisely which station we have to get off. Like, you can be on the subway, everybody's on the subway, but I won't make it to the Harinam unless I know exactly which train to get off and which train to get on. So it's very important to know these subject matters, especially the mood, the sankalpa. So I really appreciate that you are inspiring me to be more, have more discernment regarding what my sankalpa is before I do my service. And then, if I have the right sankalpa, then I can maybe get down to the right station and make it to the goal. In just staying in general,
the wrong station,
here and there,
just go to a mosque or something and start doing namaz. You have the Harinam station, you have the namaz station.
Yes. And then one more point I want to appreciate, you mentioned how Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says that Rasa Panchadhyaya is the reason for whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And all the more reason to meditate on those, read those pastimes, read those chapters from Srimad Bhagavatam again and again, understanding what gift is there. So thank you for sharing that also for Maharaj. And I had a couple of questions. I'll ask maybe one or two, and then you can let me know if you have more time. You can ask more. One question I had just occurred to me today, that when we talk about 5 different rasas, we talk about Madhurya ras as Shringaras, as being in conjugal mellow. But today we were hearing this, how these manjaris, their only aspiration is to actually serve Srimati Radharani. So, in some sense, they're being Radharani Sakhis. So why is it called Madhurya Ras? Like we have Sakya Ras for being Krishna's friend. Actually, should be called something. I'm not sure why they call Madhurya Ras specifically, because they are just
because
being
in a lot of
Radharani's friend.
ways, their mood is dasya. Their mood is servitorship. But it's Madhurya Ras because they see those pastimes, and as Prabhupada intimated in his purports, the purport that we read from Madhya chapter 8, sometimes Srimati Radharani, she tells Krishna to go to those manjaris. So although in general the manjaris don't have a desire for themselves, they only want to give pleasure to Radha and Krishna, they want to bring Radha and Krishna together, sometimes Radharani makes some arrangement for those gopis, those manjaris. Also Krishna approaches them and he touches them in a very intimate way and performs intimate pastimes with them also. So their Sthayi Bhav is Madhurati, and for that reason, but it's also Madhurati because they're the witness to the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, which no one else is a witness to. Even the Sakhis don't have the privy, don't have the entrance to those intimate pastimes that Rupa Manjari and Guna Manjari and Tulsi Manjari and others, that they're able to see. So they're Madhurati in that sense.
Okay. I got it. Thank you, Boo. Another question I have, you mentioned this quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur from Bhajan Rahasya, how the first two couples from the holy name, they represent the meeting of Radha and Krishna. And then there was a couple of more sentences after that too. Now, is that a description or is that a prescription?
It's a prescriptive description.
Can you pull the slide and explain a little more too? I want to hear more on that subject matter.
Well, it's a prescription in the sense it's like the doctor gives us a prescription for some medicine, meaning some activity for ourselves. And in this case, it's a description that we think about. And it's not something that we necessarily try to artificially meditate on, because if we artificially just think about it, then it may just be some imagination on our part. So we should understand such a thing exists. We want to go in that direction. That helps us to create a sankalpa, which is primarily what we're speaking about today. That's sankalpa. And it gives us some direction, gives us some guidance to go. And eventually, at a certain point where we are qualified, then we can act on that prescription. Otherwise, prior to that, it's a description. And we'll speak more about that in our next session, about what is the vision of our acharyas about developing our own internal Sthayi Bhav and understanding our own internal Swarup. How does that happen? That's the foundational of many controversies between ISKCON and Gaudiya Math and the Babajis. The Babajis, they say Gaudiya Math and ISKCON, you don't have a proper understanding. You should be doing this Siddha Pranali. We don't do like that. We have another description, and we'll discuss it in our next session. What are the numbers on the door behind you? 5247.
I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Is that the number of one of the prisoners they were keeping in the cell there or something?
This is an elevator room. There used to be elevator here. So a bunch of machinery here from like old elevator doesn't work anymore.
Animated.
Elevator.
Okay,
but another question I have.
Huh?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Another question I have, Prabhu, you mentioned in one of the quotes, it said that one easily attains Vastu Siddhi. And it just stood out to me. There was some passage you were reading, and it said one easily attains Vasudhiti, one has this meditation. And how is that the case that one can easily attain Vasudhiti? There was a quote somewhere you quoted from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Bhaktivedanta, I think that's, let me find it here real quick. Yeah, this was from, I think, Chaitanya Siksamrita, yeah, 7.7. So if we understand the topic of rasa and service in the proper mood, then we can enter into meditation on the asakaliya pastimes, the eightfold different pastimes. And then very easily he'll attain Vastu Siddhi. We'll attain perfection. Vastu just means a thing, and Vastu Siddhi will attain perfection of our life if we understand that. But it's after we understand the topic of rasa and we understand the proper mood and things. And Bhaktivinoda, let's back up a little bit in that statement too. Being experienced in rasa and attached to the name, having earned the treasure of prema to the level of Mahabhav, you'll have reached perfection. Attain the highest stage by deciding your present qualification, practicing yukta vairagya, and constantly chanting the name. So we should attain that highest stage by first of all understanding what is my personal adhikar right now, and practicing yukta vairagya, which means that maybe I'll get married, maybe I'll work a job outside, maybe I'll do this thing or that thing because it's the appropriate thing for me to do, or maybe I'll be a brahmachari and I'll just dedicate myself completely to doing harinam and whatever. That's yukta vairagya. I'm going to understand what is the best particular activity for me according to my adhikar. And in whatever I'm doing, constantly chanting the holy name. And then after some time of that, becoming self-realized, then we can enter into this meditation in a natural way. And as Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, and we'll speak about this in our next session, Name Prasvatito Hai Rupa Guna Karma. And Harinam Chintamani says that the holy name will blossom itself into Rup Guna Karma, or the form, the qualities, and the pastimes of Krishna. It'll happen automatically. It's not an artificial imposition on the mind. And we'll read some things from Bhaktivinode and Bhaktisiddhanta also about that when we try to do something artificial. Is that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. But there's one more thing. In that same quote, next page you shared that if the Sahajas have appreciation for this topic, then they will fall down.
Mm-hmm.
Can you also help me understand that too,
Yeah,
please?
let's put it up on the board. People who have strong attraction for gross material pleasure and who can't understand these topics should not read, think, or discuss these topics of rasa, because they will think these are all material activities and criticize them. If they can't appreciate them, then they'll become degraded as sahajas. In other words, if someone has a lot of material desires, then that's not their adhikar to meditate on these particular pastimes. And Srila Prabhupada saw what was perfect for us. He said, you go out in book distribution, you go out in Harinam, you maintain the temple services and things. But at a certain point, we can understand such things exist. Now, maybe for some devotees, they can't, it's difficult for them to even conceive that such things exist. That's a shame. Sometimes people are afraid of higher subject matters. And if you speak something to them about higher levels of mathematics, they just freak out and say, well, forget it, and I'm going to drop out of math. That just sounds too complicated. You know, I can't cope with that. That's a shame. But if when they come to a certain point, they understand, oh, there's so much more ahead of me. That's a common in any field of learning. The teacher at a certain point is going to start telling you about higher things, but that you're not exactly studying those higher things yet, but the teacher's just telling you these things exist. And you should know these things exist, because if you don't know they exist, then you can't make a sankalpa. You can't make any determination for it. So, but Bhaktivinode is saying, as long as we have these heavy material desires and things, This is not the subject matter for us. We can still have some sankalpa for it. We can still know that it exists, but this is not what we should be absorbed in, primarily at this point, if someone has a desire. Is that okay?
That's very nice, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. I have
Okay.
another question too, but I'll ask maybe later once if there's more
Okay,
time.
there's a couple hands up too. I want to go to them. Gorni Tai Prabhu,
Thank you, Prabhu.
I'm worried about you. It's what time is it now? It's 9, almost 10 o'clock at night there for you.
9:40.
9:40, yeah. Nice to see you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. We've been
Hare
thinking a lot
Krishna.
about the Hungarian devotees lately. Some of them just came back from India, and
Yeah, there's a big group here, and still will come others. Thank you very much for this nice topic, and I hope that you will help to allow. It's a little bit selfish desire, but please be healthy and keep going these classes, these group conversations. At least it's my desire. Do you hear me?
yeah, I can hear. Thank you. Yeah, my desire,
Okay.
I just want to try to show that these things are in Srila Prabhupada's books and in Srila Prabhupada's movement, and in the line of Bhaktivinode and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. These things also
Yeah.
belong to us. We don't have
Yeah.
a monopoly on them, but they're part of our
Yeah.
movement, and we should have a sankalpa to understand them and go in that direction.
Yeah, I have some questions about the Sankalpa,
Mhm.
and in one of the quotes which you brought, the Sankalpa, I started to read Srila Shivaram Samaraj books about the Sankalpa Kaumudi then, and then I understand that the part of the Sankalpa is very much the attachment for the Guru, attachment for the leader, whom you want to follow by creating, by following Sankalpa. So what you do if your mind is not so much attracted to your guru or to the person who can help you. So how you create a love for a person who is not a beautiful person, who is not really available, have many other uh, engagements, so you have really just far out from that person. How you develop love? Appreciation I know, but to love that person and do something big things for that, how you develop that strong attachment. That's one of my questions.
Okay. We were just speaking about this in our last session here in Hungary about guru and disciple, and how the holy name, Rupa Goswami, in his Prajavali, he describes that there's a connection, a deep connection between the disciple and the holy name, between the disciple and Gurudev through the holy name. And he says that by that chanting of the holy name, we'll develop bhakti for Guru. And he speaks this thing that there's a verse which is found both in Prajavali and in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Atargodoshi Padadvanva Bhaktim, that the holy name, one of the things that it does, it gives me bhakti for my Gurudev. Now, how does it give me bhakti for my Gurudev? Well, first of all, I'm chanting for my Gurudev. I'm always quoting this verse, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kore Guru Sevan, that my Guru Seva is Krishna Bhajan. And that's the essence of what service I do for Gurudev. Raghunath Das Goswami, therefore, begins his prayers in his, not Manasiksha, but in his Mukta Charit. He says that my Gurudev gave me the topmost name.
Namashreshtam.
I'm sorry, what?
Namashreshtam.
Namashreshtam, thank you, my mind blank. Namashreshtam Manamapi Sachiputam Matra Swarupam. Gurudev gave me this name. That name, that is such an important thing. We don't take it very seriously sometimes. Oh, it's just first initiation. What's the big deal? You know, it's just, we see it just as an institutional thing or this or that. But that name is our connection to our Gurudev. And by chanting that name, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan, I'm doing service to Guru, I'm going to please Gurudev. And that name, by pleasing Guru, Shushu Shradadana Vasudeva Kutarich, I'll get a taste of the holy name by chanting the holy name as a service to Gurudev. And then from that taste, I'll begin to understand something more about Gurudev, and I'll begin to appreciate, I'll have gratitude for what Gurudev has given me. And so in that way, Atagaroshi Padadmanva Bhaktim, the holy name gives me bhakti to the lotus feet of my Gurudev. Is that helpful, Gaunitai Prabhu?
Yeah, definitely. So I see that chanting of holy name is not just fulfilling one service like 60 round, okay, but it's really have some very specific effect if you do it nicely, if you do it for your next level, if you know what is the next level.
In Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami goes so far, he calls it Kirtanakya Bhakti. He speaks about Navavidi Bhakti, the different ninefold practices of Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padam Sevanam, like that. And he says that in Kali Yuga, you may do any of those types of services, but the Kirtanakya Bhakti, all of them have to be connected with the chanting of the holy name. And so if you contemplate that statement, and then you apply that to what you were just asking about, to our relationship between guru and disciple, then what that says is that whatever services we may do for Guru, we may be cooking for Gurudev, distributing books for Gurudev, doing management in the temple for Gurudev, whatever we're doing, that kirtan has to be there. That kirtan is supporting all those things. It's not that, oh, you're doing kirtan. Here we have this, and his name, Shamrup Prabhu, is that his name? Shambhari Prabhu, I think, was going out every day doing Harinam by himself. Very wonderful kirtani, a very, very sweet devotee. So someone may say his service is chanting, but everybody's service is chanting. You may be a cook, you may be a cleaner, you may be whatever. Everybody, whatever, because it's Kirtanakya Bhakti. And in all those different services we're doing on the order of Gurudev, Gurudev's given us that service, but the essence of all those services is chanting. So while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, while I'm doing management, whatever, I should be constantly chanting. And then Ataguroshi Padadvanva Bhakti, that chanting will give me bhakti to Gurudev. Okay?
High level. And, you have a very nice, very specific spiritual master who wrote a lot of books. And I have also, but what to do with the devotees whose initiating spiritual master doesn't write books or doesn't or write books in not this about this essential topic, but some
They should just be peaceful.
how you develop.
They should be peaceful. Krishna came to them in the form of their guru. They should always have faith in their guru. They shouldn't disrespect their guru. And if somehow their guru can't give them everything that's required, then at a certain point, they can go to their guru. Narahari Sakar recommends this in his Krishna Bhajan Amrita. They may privately go to their guru and say, Guru Maharaj, can I have permission to take Siksha from Gaunitai Prabhu? And they'll ask permission from that. And then their guru will tell them yes or no, you do this thing like that. So Krishna will provide whatever we're lacking. He promises that in the Bhagavad Gita, if we're approaching him with devotion. But if we reject our guru, if we criticize our guru, then how are we going to get anything? I can say my mother was not a good person. My mother, she was eating meat most of her life. She was doing this, but she's my mother. It's not that she's a big person or a small person. She's my mother. And I should respect her. And similarly with Gurudev. My Guru Maharaj, he once said that if you leave a guru and you go to another guru who's on a higher platform, but you offend your initiating spiritual master who's on a lower platform, you'll get nothing. All that you'll get is offense. So we have to be very careful. We should always respect our Gurudev. We should always respect our parents, respect all the senior Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Gaudiya.
one other
Okay.
question can I have?
Yeah.
So most of the devotees have no specific guide in this tour. They're having in this bhakti path. So is it possible that a person like me or anyone create a sankalpa which is really helps, or it's quite difficult to create for yourself a sankalpa when you don't have an advisor?
Is it possible to create a sankalpa for them? Is that you're asking?
Yeah, it means some point that I will do that because that will help me. So can you figure out for yourself what you have to do, or sometimes it's more difficult and you have
Well, the
someone else
essence of
has
the
to help you?
sankalpa is that it's something, it shouldn't be from the mental platform. The sankalpa is something which is natural. In that sense, the word sahaja is there. Sahaja just means it's a natural thing. We use it in a pejorative way as a criticism, but it's also just means something natural. Friendship is natural. You don't have to go to your temple president and say, is it okay for me to be friends with such and such devotee? We have principles about friendship. Rupa Goswami describes in Upadeshamrita. One of the main principles is we should hear and chant about Krishna together. And we shouldn't speak about Maya. But who we may be friends with, that's a personal thing. And similarly, what sankalpa that we'll make, one person will make a sankalpa here on, what was it, Nityananda Trayodisi, I think there's two devotees here in the temple. They took saffron cloth and they did that in front of the deities and everything. There was a whole ceremony and there was like a sankalpa that I'm going to be fixed like this as a brahmachari and then somebody else gets married. And there's a few other brahmacharis who got married in the ashram too. And they'll have a different kind of sankalpa. So it's a natural thing. It's not something that you can assign to somebody else. It has to be according to their heart.
That
Krishna
means
will
you
send
can
some
make
guide.
that means you can make mistake if you figure out some sankalpa which is not actual natural. Then you have to understand that a few days later or somehow you have to understand this is not correct.
And it happens. We see, some people that they become attracted to Sai Baba or this thing or that thing. Why? And that we often quote this verse in the Brahma-vaivarta Purana, which in the beginning of Bhaktisiddhanta, Jiva Goswami raises this exact question. It's an obvious question. Okay, you're going to speak about bhakti, you're going to speak about Krishna and Guru and all these things, but why is it then that some people are attracted to that? Why some people attracted to Rupa Goswami and then other people attracted to some bogus person? And he, excuse me, he quotes this verse from Brahma-vaivarta Purana, Javat papaishta malinam hridayam tavadevahi, that malinam hridayam, that if the heart is malinam, is dirty, it's contaminated, as long as it's contaminated, Nashastra Satyabudhi Shat Saguru Sabudhigata, you won't have attachment or attraction for you won't have a good brain, such a buddhi. You won't be attracted to bona fide shastras or bona fide sadhus. So the first thing is we have to clean our heart. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. And therefore what Srila Prabhupada gave is perfect. What Prabhupada gave is exactly perfect. But when we don't apply it the way that Srila Prabhupada gave it, we think, oh, Prabhupada didn't give me everything. He only gave me the holy name. He only gave me chanting of Hare Krishna. I didn't get everything. I've got to get Manjari Bhav or this thing or that thing. We're a fool. Because then you'll make some sankalpa, like you said, but because hridayam, malinam hridayam, your heart is contaminated, you'll make the wrong sankalpa, the wrong person, and you're going to end up suffering like anything. So the first thing is just do what we've been told. Just chant the holy name, go out and book distribution. All that we're discussing today, we're not even really encouraging devotees to exactly have a sankalpa. We're just stating this thing exists. And to have a kind of distant sankalpa, we can realize this is the kind of subject matter that I want to go to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Osalia, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
This is the
I have a
Hungarian
question.
division. Goni Tai Prabhu and now you.
I understand that we mustn't meditate artificially on the gopis. However, my question is that is there any intermediate step between the spontaneous loving service, which comes natural way, and between chanting the holy name with attention and maybe spontaneously inner images come sometimes. Maybe it's not a transcendental level, but inspiring. So is there any intermediate step? I would give an example because previously I read the book of Avia Saint Teresa of the Inner Castle, Christian saint, mystic saint, and she suggested to the disciples to meditate, for example, in a way where they are the observers, for example, the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus, and they are there, they are with the disciples, not a specific role, but just observers and to feel what they experience. So it was a spiritual guidance. Is there something like this in what our acharyas say?
Mm-hmm. And Rupa Goswami speaks about that elaborately. All of our acharyas do. Jiva Goswami speaks about jata ruchi and ajata ruchi, or there are two different types of raganuga bhakti. There's someone who hasn't ajata ruchi, it hasn't taken birth yet, but still they have some desire because of some association. They may have some paramartik shraddha, some transcendental faith. Primarily, Bhaktivedanta calls it Bhagavat Lila Madhurya Lobamoyi Shraddha, or faith which comes from hearing from a higher Vaishnava, someone who has that kind of faith. Now, maybe we've been hearing from some other type of person, and they don't have that kind of faith. They're more interested in rules and regulations, and don't even think about that, and that's just speculation on your part. They'll tell you. So yeah, that there's an interim kind of thing. Through association and good fortune, we may get some kind of ruchi like that, but that we have to be careful. We want to maintain that. It can easily go away, especially if we commit some offenses. Is that okay?
Yes, I think. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. I just noticed Brajarad Gopal Prabhu's question. How does one develop a conception of our sankalpa? Yukta vairagya seems to be necessary to keep the mind stable, not much more. Well, yeah, in Goni type of way, the same question. So I hope what I spoke helps you. By the mercy of Guru, everything comes from the mercy of Guru. And when we're rendering that service to Gurudev, Shushu Shadadanasha, Vasudeva Kata, then that Kata Ruchi comes to our heart, and a sankalpa will naturally arise. I want to do this. I want to dedicate my life to this. This is my ultimate goal. And maybe we're not there. Maybe we should do stock of ourselves and be honest. Maybe I'm just a long ways from there. My Guru Maharaj spoke quite a bit about understanding what is bhakti adhikar, what is karma adhikar, what is jnana adhikar. And he told us, you don't have bhakti adhikar. You don't have qualification for bhakti. But at the same time, he wanted us to understand what it was so that we could go in that direction. So when we speak about a sankalpa, I would suggest that there may be different degrees of that, different degrees of intensity. And one of the earliest things is just to know such a thing exists, that this is where I want to get down on this particular station. Is that okay? Anybody else with any reflection, anything they want to share? Okay. Srila Purushottam Prabhu. It looks like you've been out getting a suntan, huh?
Well, not much sun, but at least a walk. Doing Giriraj Parikrama about around our house.
Jai.
Yeah, we can only say sadhu, 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 and thank you, thank you, thank you. I really think that this is a historical thing, such a profound discussions on and going systematically through Prema-bhakti-candrika. It's so wonderful that we can get in touch with these topics under your guidance and with your help. So thank you so much.
I was thinking about you when I was speaking, just to cut in for a moment, and how you have a lot of friends who are followers of Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. You can go to them and tell them this is what Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says about Manjari Bhav and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they are good disciples, they probably read Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, or how is it called?
Yeah.
Probably some of them did read. Yeah, I'm like that. That's the prominent emotion today. That I'm so happy that we can go through it with you. And another emotion, another feeling is Kabe habe bolo Seydinamar. That's hopefully the proper result of such a hearing. That's our desire to achieve that is more firm, like strengthened. And so that's another. And maybe the question actually, what I was thinking is that usually we, on the scenario of that verse, Seva Sadhaka Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, usually the basic understanding is that, because what we discussed today is like Gopi Anugatya, like following.
Mm-hmm.
And like what we hear repeatedly is that this Seva Sadhaka level, let's call it like that, is when we follow the Acharya Rupa of the gopis, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, etc. And with the conception that the Siddharupena Chatrahi comes like the Gopi Anugatya, like the following of the gopis, comes with the revelation of our Siddha Swarup, of our spiritual body, and then it becomes like real, authentic. And my question is there only like that strict borderline, or is there a way that we can follow the gopis even in the Sadhaka Rupa, but probably not with the Saki Beki conceptions and similar things. But if we study the Bhagavatam under the guidance, then Gopi Bhava hopefully will become for us something much more profound than just like fashion and being cool, like speaking about gopis. But we learn to appreciate their level of sharanagati, their level of loyalty to Krishna, their total absolute selflessness. So isn't that something which is followable even for the sadhaka, but he can still consider that he's following gopis, if I'm dare to call it that way?
Yeah, I pretty much that's the purpose of our whole discussion, is to try to give some conception for the devotees that they can see how they can see this in their own guru. And of course, maybe they don't see that. Sometimes I often hear that from devotees. Well, my guru is not like that. My guru is not. That's okay. As we mentioned a little earlier, just be peaceful and then pray to Krishna to send you someone else. Take permission from your guru to go and hear from someone else, but always have faith in our guru. But we should understand this preaching activity, Bhajeti Prachar, this is assisting the gopis. This is attracting the attention of the gopis. This is such a very, very important thing. It's all based on faith, and we need to have, and therefore Jiva Goswami speaks about Shastriya Shraddha and Lokik Shraddha, or the faith which is based on Shastra and common faith. And then he speaks about how there's another two divisions of those, which is Sabhaviki Shraddha. Sabhaviki Shraddha is something which is spontaneous and natural. And then there's Balapurvaka. Balapurvaka means something which is forcibly done. It's a Balupadita, means that it's someone's convinced you, someone's pushed you into this kind of thing. It's not natural like Sabhaviki. So that faith arises in one of those two kinds of ways. And in general, that Balapurvaka Shraddha, it's not going to be sweet. It's because it's not natural. If we have some kind of understanding in a general way, so that we can have, like I said, a rather distant, perhaps, sankalpa, just a distant conception that this is my Gurudev, this is the direction I'm going in, then Swabhaviki Shraddha, or that natural faith, will arise spontaneously. And it's not something which has to be pushed or forced like that. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Maybe like as you mentioned, this preaching being the connection of our Gopi Anugatya. For me, it shows like just one part of it, meaning like, we can see that gopis are very compassionate, karuna, and it projects into our activity of spreading Krishna's glory and connecting living beings to Krishna in that way. And still what remains with a question mark, if that following of the gopis for us as a sadhakas, maybe without realizing the Siddha Swarup yet, is possible also on the level of the like attitude, like contemplating their like inner attitudes, like their examples of their sharanagati and all these things. So if on that level we could dare to say that would be our following of the gopis, like being identify with the, well, maybe not, that's too bold, identify, but to to aspire for their level of surrender, which we can recognize on the examples as the Lila is described in Bhagavatam.
Yeah, just like with Srila Prabhupada, we like to read about his Markim Bhagavat Dharma and his emotions when he arrived in Boston Harbor. And we like to hear that story when he was in Jagannath, in Mayapur, and he saw the children fighting with the dogs over the prasadam, and Prabhupada started crying, and he said that we should. So that's not Gopi Bhav, but we're getting a glimpse of Srila Prabhupada's heart, his compassion. And so, yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely want to hear those things very much. We want to hear Prabhupada Lilamrita, and we want to hear about Bhaktisiddhanta and Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami and all of our acharyas, and understanding their qualities. Even as you said, we're doing it in a Sadic kind of way. We're doing it as a preacher. So I want to understand what Prabhupada's mood is as a preacher. But simultaneously, let's have some conception that Prabhupada, what line we're going in and what mood Prabhupada is doing this in. And I know I kind of paused for a moment there because some devotees are really into, meditating on Prabhupada's Swarup. And sometimes they assign a certain Swarup to Srila Prabhupada by means of some logic or something Prabhupada said that makes them think he's like this or that. Or even, something my Guru Maharaj said, Prabhupada is a gopi and that. But my Guru Maharaj also told me personally, I will not speak to you about this. You have to realize this.
Yeah.
So we can try to understand something, but when I start trying to talk, devotees say, did you hear that lecture from Guru Maharaj? And he said Prabhupada's Swarup's name and this and that. And I tell you that I don't even pay attention to that lecture, that kind of thing. It's interesting, it's entertaining, it's whatever, but I want to realize it. I don't want to just have some book information like I'm, writing a biography about somebody or something. I want to realize it. And anything else is just uninteresting to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's thank you. Yeah, maybe the connection in that sense would be like that. Even when I'm further contemplating my question, would be that even like we can't really separate like Rupa Goswami from Rupa Manjari. You cannot say you either follow Rupa Goswami or Rupa Manjari, because that just doesn't make sense. So in a sense, the Rupa Goswami is like available, immediately available, like by the example, by the instructions actually that are given to us directly by him. So in that sense, and then the connection for me would be this. Well, I don't know if I can quote it properly. The second verse of Sat Goswami Ashtakanana Shastra Vicharanaika, and the third line is Gopi Bhava Rasamrita Vilahari. So that's it says that they are worthy of following because they are immersed in the Gopi Bhava. So in that sense, us following them, we are following their Gopi Bhava in a sense. Like they are immersed in that emotion, and for them it is reality. For them it's not imagination, and it's their reality. So if we follow them and follow their instructions, their guidance, then we are like connected, more or less direct.
That's my understanding. What Bhaktivinode was saying, what we were reading earlier, that we have to look at our adhikar. We have to take stock of our situation. Otherwise, we may just have some kalpana, some imagination. And it sounds like a really nice thing. I'm going to meditate. My guru is, I tell a story sometimes. I was on a parikrama in Braj Mandala in 1996, a little after my Guru Maharaj left. And one of my godbrothers came up to me and said, what do you think, Prabhu? Somebody said that Guru Maharaj is Champaka Laka Sakhi. He was one of the Asa Sakhis. And to my credit, I didn't beat him, although I felt like it. I became a little harsh with him. I just told him basically, get away from me. I don't like to speculate on this. This is not just like some kids coming together and, well, it's really cool. Gurudev's like, I don't like that. I pratyek savagamam dharmyam susukam kartinam. I want to realize that. And anything else, it may be some kalpana. I'm going to sit and I'm going to start meditating. Gurudev has greenish skin, and Gurudev, I don't know, it's complete speculation.
Yeah.
So rather than that, like you're suggesting, we just be simple. We act according to our adhikar. We don't imagine ourselves to be higher than we are. And we just do our book distribution, we do our harinam, we do our preaching with other devotees too. You may not be going out doing book distribution every day, but you're speaking with devotees and you're preaching to devotees and things. That's also preaching. That's important. We should share these things and meditate on Prabhupada's desire for that. And
Yeah.
there's a promise these things will come. But
Absolutely.
if we don't have any conception of what station we want to go to, as Siddha Hari Prabhu was commenting, I don't know. We may get off at the mosque station instead of the Harinam station.
No, I like how you put it, that we can always meditate and contemplate how does it please Prabhupada, and how does it please his inner absorption. Like one thing is the external appearance, that we've got the instruction to preach and to share Krishna consciousness with others. But also we always wanna have on our mind and heart the internal part of the whole scenario, of the whole picture.
And I think that's pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. And that's a really, really important thing. We may say, well, I'm not going to think about these things because Prabhupada won't be pleased. I think Prabhupada would be pleased. He said, how can we avoid them? Prabhupada spoke about the gopis. Prabhupada spoke about these things. But if we couple that with an understanding of our adhikar, and we don't try to jump, I think that'll be very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, because the opposite danger from the other side, the danger is that we will just be mechanical and ritualistic and Prabhu, and what are you doing really? I don't care. Gurudev said. Yeah. Do you know what are you doing?
Jiva Goswami, in the same discussion in Bhaktisiddhanta about types of Shraddha, he speaks about Ruchi Pradhan and Vichar Pradhan. And Ruchi Pradhan is when someone has some taste and they're naturally attracted to bhakti. Vichar Pradhan is when someone's inclined toward logic and argument and just some philosophy and like that. And that Vichar Pradhan, that takes long, and generally that's balapurvika, what we were saying earlier. It's something which is forcibly, you're trying to push it. It's not sabhaviki, it's not natural.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Hare Krishna with you. Rosalia, you had something else you want to share?
Yes, thank you. It catched my ears that you talked about offense, and I was thinking that how we can make an offense during such kind of meditation, that we are observing the gopis there in the background, or if my understanding during your talk, you were talking in the last few seconds, I was thinking that maybe it's enough that be aware that these are not reality. This is just imagination. Is it enough to avoid such offense? So would you please talk me a little bit more about how we can make offense in this process?
Offenses are something very scary. And there's a lot of religionists who they're inspired because they think that God is going to send them to hell. God's going to be angry. God's going to be offended. But we learn from the Gita that Krishna is the father of all living entities. Krishna loves everyone. So in that sense, it's not that Krishna takes offense. Krishna takes offense if we offend his devotee. But if we do some aparad to the holy name, we do some aparad to the deity, then we can take shelter of Krishna's devotee, and it's not a problem. But the discussion about the offenses is not to understand Krishna's nature. The discussion about offenses comes up when we speak about bhakti. And this is something which is going to hurt me. You know, if someone has a relationship, a man and a woman have a relationship, it's not that the man may do something to offend the woman, but it's not that offense lives within her. It's in the relationship. And this is something he's done, and it hurts, and hurts their relationship. So she doesn't want to see him anymore. So these offenses to the holy name, these offenses to the deity are there for that reason, for us to understand this is going to hurt my relationship. Krishna. Gaudiya Prabhu just left us. Krishna. Is that helpful?
Actually, if I would say not really, because I'm lost in I cannot find the connection between the offense in meditation and offense.
Well, offensive meditation is not in a relationship. What is offensive in a relationship? Let's put it this way. Many things can be offensive. One thing can be is if someone's imagining something in their mind. And that's a very common thing. A boy imagines or a girl imagines he's in love with me. I saw he looked at me, he did this, but the guy,
I see.
So that's an offense in one sense.
I see. Not to see more in that relationship what there is.
They're not living in reality.
Yes, living in a reality. Yes, I see.
So
Okay.
any relationship should be based on reality. That I should understand what is my adhikar, what qualification I have, and not speculate something. Oh, I'm in love with Krishna, Krishna's this and that, when it's not true. Especially if I still have material desires, I'm angry, I'm greedy, I'm lusty for this and that, then that means I don't have adhikar.
Yes, I see. So if I have an attitude that, okay, this practice is just help me to embed my further development and to meditate on this topic, to have more faith and wish and so on. It's that's all, and not this is not reality. This is just helping.
Yeah, we can think about it. It's not bad. It's not bad to think, how Krishna might greet me when I go to the spiritual world. Maybe Krishna will embrace me. Maybe I'll fall at Krishna's feet and touch his lotus feet, or who knows? It's not bad to meditate on it. It's certainly a lot better to think about that than to think about something from the newspaper or some mundane thing. But we don't know because we're seeing it through the lens of our material conditioning. And so it may just be kalpana, it may just be some imagination. And if I try to base a relationship, based on some mental speculation, not understanding my adhikar as revealed to me by Guru, then yeah, some offense may come.
Okay, it's clear now. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for asking. Okay, anybody else with anything you want to share? Okay, so Krishna Kun. Oh, Krishna Kun is still here. Do you want to share anything, Krishna Kun? You've been busy all day.
Hare Krishna. I think that the only thing I can share is that it just feels right now that it is so much beyond me. It's so much beyond my adhikar that I just want to take shelter of the holy name and meet you in a few lifetimes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, if we study mathematics, we're at the level of arithmetic, and then the teacher starts speaking to us about algebra. We just think, oh my God, that's so far away. But there's a utility. There's a benefit in speaking about that. It gives us something to look forward to. And it also helps us to understand what is our adhikar. And maybe my adhikar right now is just for arithmetic. And later on, I'll go to long division or this or that. But right now, I'm on a very low adhikar. But I understand such a thing exists. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to share anything? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop for the evening. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm not sure what's going to happen next week. Did we already have tickets, Krishna Kun? We do already, don't we?
Yes,
see.
of course, we have tickets for Saturday.
For
But next
Saturday. Okay,
next
so it'll be no problem. Then we have a session next week.
sorry?
We have a session next week for sure. We'll do that from
It's not connected to the tickets. We have a funeral next Wednesday. I may not be.
yeah.
I
I'm
think
thinking like 2 weeks away. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
so next week, I'll keep everybody informed, but it looks like next week we may have to cancel. And maybe 2 weeks after that, when we go to check, we can do it. All right, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Guru Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo